Welcome back, everyone. DestinysJesus here. In today's video, I'm going to be looking at 6 mistakes that you guys need to avoid making during solo cash cups. These are going to be micro decisions during the endgame, so if you want to improve your endgame, this is the video for you. And the player we're looking at here is Kane. He got 7th place. I was live coaching for this event, and he 100%, if he fixed just one of these mistakes, would have got 3rd place. And probably if he fixed most of these mistakes, he would have been contesting for 1st versus Cammy and Vidil, who had an insane tournament. So if you have a look at his match history here, he's the 2nd best average placement, just a few places below Cammy, as you can see. And he had very, very solid games, but each one of these games, the mistake that he made was very fixable, and that's what we're taking a look at here, and it prevented him from getting more placements or maybe some more kills as well. Okay, so first of all, what is a micro decision? You guys might have heard what a macro decision is before, so a macro decision on a much broader scale. It basically means where you're going to be landing, your early game plan, how you're going to be rotating 1st zone, 2nd zone, 3rd zone, how you're going to be playing Surge if you need to get Surge, what your loadout is going to be. That is sort of a macro decision that you'd be making. However, micro decisions are much smaller, and they're basically a hit or miss decision. Should I go here or should I go here? Should I hit this pad? Should I not hit this pad? Should I build when I go for a pad or should I not? These are all micro decisions that every single one of you watching this video make probably hundreds of in a tournament, and Kane made it pretty much perfect macro decisions. Obviously I was helping him with a lot of them and telling him what to do. However, his micro decisions during the end game slightly let him down. Every single game that he played, he was at least 100 builds, or ideally like 110, 120 builds during 4th zone, and he also had a car, and most of his games, his loadout looked very similar to this. His Surge management was very good. He didn't really have any issues with Surge on 50-50. He had a shotgun, SMG, floppers, splashes, and minis pretty much every single game. So his whole early game plan was really well thought out and structured by him, and his mid game was basically perfect on a macro scale. It's just these end game decisions that cost him from doing as well as he could have. So let's take a look at these and have a look at actually some nice things that he's doing throughout the tournament as well for you guys. So our first mistake is just going to be a very simple tip for playing height in solos. There's 2 main play styles that you need to do for height, and it's actually one of the best ways that you can take heights. Whenever you're padding during the end of 1st moving, or as 2nd moving starts going, or when later 2nd moving, even the 3rd moving, you can do this. It's basically just always look to see where height is. If height is on backside and they're not connected very well, or if you see that height is easy to land on, always look to do it because it can lead to a very free win. So you can see here, he lands front side 2nd moving. He's going to go ahead and PG this guy for a second, but makes a mistake of not over-committing to fighting him. Instead, he drops down, chops out. The other guy's gone through a whole load of mats in that process as well, and they immediately just give up heights. It's so good to do in opens. Just go front side, try to PG people, but don't fully commit to actually fighting them. Instead, try to chop them out, go for some damage, and he actually gets height given to him for free here. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about how you should be playing height in solos as he goes for this mats and actually misses all of it, which is a pretty big mistake as well. You either need to be playing backside of Storm. Let's say when you're near to the end of Storm, you'll need to be playing backside and making sure you're double connected, or you want to be playing front side and make sure you're connecting to people below you. What I mean by double connected backside is making sure you're placing hard mats ideally, and you're doing a floor and cone top. You can't do this for the entirety of zone, which is why you've kind of got to do what he does here, where he makes sure he's connected by 1 build. But as you can see, he's going to run into an issue where zone pulls really far for 3rd moving, it pulls max distance, and he pressures all these people below him, but he actually only is held up here by 1 build, and he's not connected to anyone in front of him. He's pressuring all these people down, and what happens when you're held up by this much, people can sometimes look up from front side, which is kind of what he's trying to counter now by spraying these people over on front side, as you can see. Or what happens is, especially now when everyone is playing floppers and playing loads of splashes in Storm, is people are going to flank up in Storm, just like Seti does here. So it's a really good play by him. He shoots him out, gets the disconnect, and then he ramps up and gets free high ground. Right here, this is probably the best way that you can go for refreshes in solos. It's called the Red 9-3. You guys should know if you get the solos mask on us. Getting to front side, cutting off people early, and then looking below and down you on people that are also coming to zone. So you can see here, he gets a whole load of damage on this one player, but he makes a mistake of over-committing with his SMG, trying to kill him, which forces him to actually get sprayed on the side. Whenever you spray for too long when you're holding people, it just means that you have no audio or awareness of what's going around you. So you can see he gets sprayed on the side and gets tanked a little bit, and that also causes him to lose out on the next refresh of a guy coming through here who's 1 HP, which he definitely could have got. Right here is another mistake when it comes to playing floppers and getting the box. So you can see he's actually very stacked on mats, and he's got 1 flopper, but he kind of needs to pop minis before he loses his box. In this situation, you should always try to prioritize getting that 1 mini down and then leaving the box before you have to waste the flopper. Or tank a little bit of Storm, but you want to be trying to save that flopper for when you get in zone, and then you can heal up with it later, just in case you got caught up. You shouldn't be playing a flopper the whole way back in Storm unless you've got multiple floppers, in my opinion. So you can see here, he pops 1 mini, and then he makes the mistake of committing for the 2nd mini, and at this point, Everyone else is moving towards that front side position, and they're on spots where they can hold him, and they obviously hear him, and they see on visual sound effects that he's healing back in the storm. And now he pops another flopper before he goes out. This is pretty good to just get some awareness and visuals on what's in front of him. But you can see as he comes out here, he's going to die straight away to someone on his left that he doesn't quite see. He should have instead tack sprinted over to the right hand side, stick right side of zone, and build walls as he finishes tack sprint. But you can see he gets shot completely in the side by this player right here, and then he goes down with a whole load of mats because he's not sticking to that right hand side of storm. It's a very avoidable situation, and he was insanely stacked this game, and he could easily convert this into a top 5 in my opinion. This game is a very, very, very common mistake that I guarantee you guys watching this video have made at one point in a solo cash cup, and it is so easy to avoid. So you can see here, he's very good on mats at this point. He's also got a good amount of floppers as well for white. How he's pretty much shambles on shield. He's only got 1 minute. You need to think about all your resources as an economy at this point. He is very good on builds. However, he's got no heals. So the priority for him here is to do a rotate that isn't going to cost him any of his shield, basically. It can maybe cost him some whites, maybe it can cost him some builds, but he can't risk taking any shield damage, or he's going to be completely shambles going into moving zones. And you can see he makes a really bad mistake, which is as this guy places a pad, is he doesn't overbuild as he goes to the pad. Instead, he just runs straight out his box. There's people on his backside here that are going to hold him. There's also a very high chance that someone else is doing the same play. It's like one of these players here is going to look up and try to pump him as he goes to the pad. You need to always, always, always overbuild, cover all your angles. Just burn through wood at this point. It's completely fine as you go for a pad. As you can see, gets shot in the back, takes a little bit of damage, doesn't actually get cracked, and he's able to land on this HP. And again, he makes another mistake when he lands, is he gets into zone very nicely, but he gets into one box, and at this point he needs to heal up, and he's very shambles on heals, he can't take any more damage. Instead of healing up straight away, he decides to just hold his walls for a second, which I don't think is too bad, but he should 100% make 2 boxes here out of hard mats, and then heal up, just to make sure he doesn't get sprayed. But instead, what happens is someone just decides to spray his wall for surge, or for whatever reason, or they see the fact that he's in a single box, so he gets sprayed on his floor. He decides to leave his box. Now he's making 2 boxes. There's people around him that are going to spray these freshly built walls, which is exactly what happens. He gets cracked, and then he's dead. Always, always, always make sure that you build 2 boxes when you land, and you make sure that you hold your walls before popping minis or something, which is a very likely way that you guys have died before. Just people spraying you because you're popping a mini. Alright, just quickly, I'm interrupting myself in this video to show you guys the masterclass update. I just got done with it and I finally actually released it today. This is kind of the day after it's been released. But any of you guys who already have the solos masterclass, make sure you go check out these videos before the Cash Cup or before any future solo events. They're really, really good. If any of you guys are on the fence about getting it, I'll quickly show you what's involved in this new update. So you can see we've got 2 videos here with TK from his first place. We've also got Teeny, if you guys remember from last season, he was absolutely popping off in the solo Cash Cups. Also got the Siptos, who's actually got 2nd place in the most recent EU solo Cash Cup. And of course we've got Cam, who I've featured on this channel a whole lot of times, breaking down all his most recent Cash Cup 2nd places. I've also streamlined the whole section on Kovacs and warm routines. We've got some new videos from Diego Plays, who you guys should know. He's got absolutely insane mechanics, probably the best mechanics in the world at the moment. We've got his full routine there, which I'm not going to show. We've got all of these pros warm routine: Noah Riley, Dave, Adil, Jerky, Vortex, Reason. There's a bunch of shotguns routines, a bunch of aim coach routines down here as well, some in-game routines, and everything else, as you can see, is actually way streamlined. I've hidden all the old stuff that's not really useful for the current meta. I've got absolutely everything that's really important. All the stuff from All Stars, which is still kind of the same fighting meta, some W key stuff, fixing mistakes in your gameplay, so that's kind of like coaching people. And then of course you've got the pro breakdowns, some viewer VOD reviews down here, and then we've got some VOD reviews for pros as well. And of course the solo breakdown and the secret success. Make sure to go check this out now. It's really, really good update, really, really good content in here, and it will help you get better at solos, of course. Alright, let's get back to this video with the 4th mistake here, which is not boxing up properly. This game from start to just about now was basically perfectly played from Kane. I was really happy with the way he played this, how he should have got it into a top 3 situation, and he makes a very, very minor mistake that you guys need to avoid. So you can see he's going to let Storm catch up with him very nicely, then he's going to attack sprint forward and get onto a free layer towards front side and start looking for a refresh. The mistake comes in right here, as you can see. He boxes up, and instead of actually connecting this back box here, so he's got 2 boxes worth of space, it's a little bit easier to box height. He's also got some nice angles where he can look downwards on the floors. Instead of doing that, just wasting 1 to 2 builds on these sides here. Obviously you've got a tree that you can refarm as well, which so you'll be on 15 builds and have 2 boxes worth of space on front side. Instead of doing that, he immediately just starts hyper focusing these guys on this side, which isn't the worst play to do, but the issue is the fact that he's left a ramp here and a low HP wood wall where a player can easily just SMG in. So you're going to see here, the guy spots it, immediate good opportunity by this guy. He hops straight into the box, gets Kane to low HP, as you can see here, and then now he gets out into the other player that rotated alongside him. Always make sure that whenever you're tarping endgame and you do one of those ramp tarps, avoid doing that and instead have two boxes connected. This is something that I learned from TK when I was doing the Solos Masterclass video with him, is he always does that and he always gets so many kills, and he never really has a situation where someone just jumps into his box and he doesn't expect it, like what happened there. This is actually probably the most costly mistake from Kane. This was a guaranteed top 2 if he didn't mess this up, and I'm going to show you guys how to fix it. Whenever you're trying to take height by playing back in Storm, you want to use whites that basically just don't show up on people's visual sound effects and don't give away a visual clue on their screen. So you can see he's got 1 flopper and 6 splashes. What you should have done is wait for this guy to tarp forward for a second, as you can see here. Pop 1 flopper once he gets down to 60 HP, and then spray him out and ramp. Instead, what happens is he plays a splash, which is the most obvious thing in the world, that he's sitting in that cone right there, and it shows up on Bad Sniper's visual sound effects for a long period of time while he's splashing back in that box, as you can see. He immediately realizes it, looks back, starts spraying against a front side angle, and actually gets Kane killed. If he played that 1 flopper and then sprayed out one of these connecting points here, at this point Bad Sniper can't do anything apart from fall down. He'll get pumped, and Kane had good enough mats where he could easily just ramp tight and take it. As you can see, he's got more mats than him at this point, and he's been above him very simply, and then he could use the splashes and height to quickly heal up while he was either fighting him or while Bad Sniper had dropped. It's such a simple mistake that he made, and it is really easy to avoid, so make sure you do that when you guys are playing floppers. Same thing goes for Medmist as well. Don't use Medmist if you're trying to do a flank height play, because you just show up and you make a very loud noise as you do it. This next micro decision that Kane gets wrong is honestly a very minor one. How it is very important that you guys learn from this. So he's getting pressured by height here and also a player on his layer, as you can see. So what you should do in this situation is try to get into, obviously try to get towards front side, it's kind of your whole goal in solos, but you need to get somewhere where you're not going to get pressured by height. Instead of that, instead of going edge of Storm and staying on this layer and going away from that play, instead he decides to pop a mini on backside, tank a little bit of Storm, this isn't too bad, and then he goes up into where second height is spraying for him, as you can see, so he gets tagged a little bit more. And at this point, as you can see, he realizes it's playing into old builds, and the really nice thing about old builds, especially in these final movings and solos, is nobody owns that space. So whoever gets there first, and maybe gets some walls placed, or can get some cones placed, or just gets control of the angles in that space, will do well. So you can see here, he's getting pressured by height, and he decides to try getting into the space, but it's too late at this point, honestly, because as you can see, Thomas HD, who you guys might recognize from our last video, as for me, Thomas HD makes the correct micro decision, which is to get into this old space. He chops through, he gets control of all of it, he's playing all these right and peak angles. He doesn't have any builds at this point, but he plays all these angles, and he outplaces Kane just by getting into these old builds here, and that actually gets Thomas HD 1 place above Kane on the leaderboard. It's such a tiny decision just to get into those old builds early, but it does make a whole matter of difference in a solo endgame, because it just means that he stays alive for much longer.